The next match features a chap called Mad Mikey. Do you remember who that is more famously?
No.
Mad Mikey, Mike Lockwood, Crash Holly.
Crash Holly, yes. When I saw I told you I had the issue we were having with YouTube last night. And I saw the split second. It was a split second shot. And who was in the ring with him?
It was Swinger and Diamond, and his tag team partner was Shark Boy.
Yes. And it was a split second there. And I said to Moose, I said, was that Crash Holly? And he said, and by the time he turned, looked, he didn't see it. And then we couldn't find it again for the next thing. So yeah, but when you ask me people's real names, some of them I know, not a whole bunch of them I don't.
No, specifically I say Mad Mikey because obviously Crash Holly's a WWE owned trademark. Shark Boy and Mad Mikey are in the back. Mad Mikey is annoyed that Shark Boy is playing with an inflatable robot. Now, Norman Smiley was originally teaming with Shark Boy, but then he leaves TNA and Mad Mikey replaces him. The next match is Mad Mikey and Shark Boy versus Simon Diamond and Johnny Swinger. Mikey has a very similar trunks on as when he was Crash Holly. And the one thing I want to bring up is that Mad Mikey walks the bottom rope, which he called preschool instead of old school, which I thought was very, very clever. Then in the match itself, Diamond gets thrown out of the ring by Shark Boy, and he's meant to land on Glenn Gilberti, Disco Inferno, but he's sort of like miles off, so he ends up just going, just absolutely reaching just to flick Disco so he reacts. Glenn stops the pin, then Mikey attacks him and leaves Shark Boy alone in the ring to get double teamed and pinned. Now, the reason why I didn't want to end on this, or try and end on something else, is we can't mention Mad Mikey, Mike Lockwood, Crash Holly. We have to talk about him because he would pass away about 6 weeks later. His run in TNA was very short indeed, and very, very sad end for him. I don't know how much time he spent with Mike Crash. He was in ECW very briefly, as Aaron O'Grady. But any memories of Crash?
Just real exuberant guy, and I think he was the type of guy because of his size. And before they created the Crash Holly and then all these subsequent takes on it, he seemed very appreciative. Like he loved being in the business. And when I heard that about him, some short time later, we're on the tail end of the time when this genocide happens in wrestling, right? There's these people hanging themselves and overdosing and dying in car wrecks and so many different things. That, like, when you first get the phone call, even before you've heard what it is, there's that voice in your head that tells you what it is, and the whole time you're saying, "Please don't let it be that," it's that dirty little secret about wrestling, that wasn't so secret. But because he was such an ebullient guy, when you watched him, when you're in a room with him, he was much like that little dog as my buddy Butch. I'm Butch's buddy, and he was like that in the dressing room, and so he was one of those guys that you always enjoyed seeing. You never went, "Oh, gonna do a match with him tonight." And there are a few guys like that, but because they're just pains in the rear ends, some of them. You never had that with him. He was, if you went out and told him to slobber on a bone and wag his tail, he would have done it. He was just so thrilled to be around the business. And I think because at that time, the X division we've just spoken about, but that was like opening doors. And suddenly you didn't need to be 7 foot tall or 397 pounds plus. And there's a guy that 10 years before would have had almost no chance in the business, and now sees the opportunity. And then, cruelly, this other thing happens a few weeks, like you said, 6 weeks later,
something like that. Yeah.
And it's it was just for us in the business. At least my take on it was it had reached the point where it was so ubiquitous and so common that you just assumed, okay, sooner or later, I'm going to be on deck. It's my turn. And because of, again, this is like right that time frame of getting off the OxyContin, that, there's that big thing on my shoulder, worried about like, hey, is that going to get me? And I think it was just this constancy of it happening, regardless if it was an accident or whatever. That certainly I was paying attention to. My brain was still cognizant enough to say, hey, dude, like, wake up or this is going to happen. But there was never one of those calls. It didn't matter who the person was. There was never one of those times you got any of those calls you went, oh, I didn't get along with him anyway, so it doesn't matter. Each one of them, like, knocked a little bit more of the shine off of wrestling. It just like, now suddenly became a slog, like who can survive this? It's like now a gauntlet, and can you make it to the other side? So, yeah, but he was a good guy that really loved being around the business. And I think when you leave him, you see a little smile he'd always put on his face, that was really him. That was like that side of him, like, man, I can't believe I'm here. And just thrilled with it. So I'm happy before what happened that he was able to experience that and get in there and do those things, like walk the bottom rope or whatever, the creative stuff, the fun stuff that just would, like that cartoon was supposed to evoke from you, the same type of response from him. When you go out there and do the walk the bottom rope or do those little things. But I see him doing that side, the little bit of a grin that he would do. That was, so over the top that that sort of like became like the snapshot in your head of him.